Hello and welcome to the Supernatural track here on Continual. I'm your host, Gail Z. Martin, and that noise in the background is my dog, Dax. And tonight we're looking at Roads Not Traveled, Season 13. What are the plot threads that didn't get followed up on? What things could have gone a different direction if only the scriptwriters had decided to go that way? Or what directions did the scriptwriters start to go and then, nah, I don't think so. I'm going to go somewhere else. So we're going to discuss all of that and have a great time doing it. But first, let's get everybody introduced. We've got somebody joining us as well, but we'll start with Melissa.
Hi, I'm Melissa. I have been a fan since the pilot aired in 2005. And normally Kitty is here to help me talk about Supernatural, but tonight she is at sleepaway camp.
Oh, Elektra.
I'm Elektra Hammond. I'm a writer and an editor. And like so many others, I was there when the first episode aired, and I watched it until that last episode made me cry.
Lynn.
Hi, I'm Dr. Lynn Zubernis. I'm a clinical psychologist and a professor at Westchester University and a huge fan of Supernatural. I've written, I think, 6 or 7 books on the show, including 2 with the cast of Supernatural. There'll be Peace When You Are Done and Family Don't End with Blood.
Lola.
My name's Lola Lariscy. I've been a fan since 2005, and I'm going to warn y'all, I'm in a mood tonight, and my answers will reflect that.
And Gail C. Martin and Morgan Bryce. As Gail, I write epic and urban fantasy. As Morgan, I write urban fantasy, male paranormal romance. But all my modern worlds are ones where Sam and Dean could walk in and feel right at home. I fell in love with the show halfway through season 11, went down the rabbit hole, well, still haven't found the end, and just kept on going. So I proudly claim the title of Obsessed Fan. So let's take a look at season 13. Now, there was a lot going on here. There was a lot changing. There were a lot of new threads coming in. And we were really heading in some different directions, but we also still had some angels and demons floating around. We had the AU, we had Jack. So let's toss out some possibilities and theories of things they could have done but didn't. Lynn?
I want to start with the one that is a theme that they did tackle, but I just want them to do more of it. I think one of the things I always love the most about Supernatural is it's not just ever a story about angels and demons and monsters. It's always got really good, relevant psychological themes that are going on underneath. And one of the themes of this season, it started with Jack and with Sam and Dean's introduction to Jack. And throughout pretty much the whole season 13, they played a little with the kind of, is Jack innocent and could be either good or not good, or is Jack, as the son of Lucifer, destined to be evil? So as a psychologist, it was sort of that nature versus nurture kind of thing going on. And they did touch on it, but I would really have loved them to do more of it. I would have loved for it to be kind of an ongoing mystery. And it was interesting because Sam and Dean were on different sides of that debate. So I would have loved to seen even more than we had about them also sort of arguing over which it was and using their own experience too to really tie that in, especially because Sam struggled with the same, like, am I cursed because I ingested demon blood as a 6-month-old baby? Does that mean that by nature I am going to be bad, or can I challenge that destiny and be good? So I just wish they had gone into it a little more deeply than they could, because I think it was a really great theme for them to tackle.
Okay. Elektra.
What if Jack really wasn't Lucifer's son? He was the son of the president. That brings up all sorts of complicated themes. I mean, you know, because it would have messed with all of the politics in the world, in their version of the world. And it would have had Lucifer running around thinking he had a son that he didn't. It would have changed everything.
And
Yeah.
there would have been no doubt that Jack was evil.
Well, that too. I mean, you know, what's worse than demons? Politicians.
Politicians.
Right, exactly. Kelly Klein couldn't have mitigated that no matter how hard she tried.
Yep, absolutely. Well, and then Kelly would not have died.
Maybe.
So definitely would have changed the whole season.
Kelly would have ended up in a very comfortable condo somewhere, you know, with a very generous,
Allowance to keep her mouth shut.
No, they would have Marilyn Monroe'd her.
That's
They
what I
really-
was gonna say that, but I thought, well, that's really dark. But but I
Have
was
you
think-
met me?
I was thinking it. I was like, let's ask Marilyn Monroe. Oh, we can't. Oh, sorry.
okay, Melissa.
I'm going to apologize in advance. I don't really like this season very much. So everything I bring into the plate tonight is snarky. Lynn is going to bring me intelligent, thoughtful stuff, and I'm going to go the complete other end of the spectrum. We'll start with, what if AU Mary married Bobby and they had 2 kick-ass daughters? There's a scene in one of the episodes that I didn't write it down because I can't with this season. But the whole thing about Apocalypse World is because Mary didn't get with John. She didn't make the deal with Azazel to bring John back to life. So Sam and Dean were never born. And this is the result of what happens when Mary doesn't, you know, sell her child to a demon, because that's really what she did. But anyway, we'll get over that. This was like that apology or the explanation for why Mary did it, which, okay, that's a bunch of BS, but whatever. But so Mary doesn't make the deal with Azazel in Apocalypse World. And so because there was no Sam and Dean, that's why we had the angels fighting. But what if Mary had gotten together with Bobby and they had daughters instead of sons? We would have had it would have been an incredibly interesting, how do 2 sisters navigate saving the world as opposed to 2 brothers? I think that would have been interesting.
And then when Sam and Dean come across and Dean is trying to, you know, deal with the impulse to hound dog on one of the sisters, and then oh no, I can't. That is just, it's wrong, but I want to, but it's wrong. I mean, we're related, right? But we're not. But we are, but we're not. The complications.
Right?
And we already have their names, Samantha and Deanna.
Yes.
You don't even have to think about that.
Oh God, that makes it even worse. But I mean, if their mother is a different Mary Campbell, does that make it okay? Are they related or not? That's like a book.
There is, I'm sure, fan fiction, because what is it, rule number 34? There's porn about everything, but there is also fan fiction about everything, I'm quite sure.
That's really interesting, Slash.
Boy,
Yeah.
talk about throwing a real monkey wrench into a fandom that's constantly arguing about this kind of stuff anyway. I would love to see what that brings out.
Yeah.
Where's
Lola?
Carol when you need her?
That's right. Lola?
Okay, so I'm going to start out a little dark, and this is a general. So this is how I've been thinking lately. This is just how I've been feeling. Hello, doggy. So I was watching them in the AU, and I started thinking, you know, that's not such a bad deal. Like, what if I were there? I think I would like it, because when you think about it, you don't have to worry about a mortgage. You don't have to worry about whether you have a driver's license or a passport, whether it's expired. You don't have any bills. You don't have to worry about job interviews. You don't have to worry about your identity getting stolen, no hacks. You actually don't have any choices beyond, you know, don't take the tunnel to Dayton, which is a no-brainer, as it should be for everybody. You know, stay off the main paths, don't get eaten by vampires. It's actually a pretty simple life, and I want that. So how can I get it? Asking for a friend.
I'm going to go with, what if the Scooby Gang had embraced the idea that ghosts and monsters were real. And, you know, they got their weapons and they muscled up, and there's alternative artwork done for the Scooby Gang where they're, you know, badass hunters, and, you know, I think that could have been a lot of fun if they'd have just, you know, and then Sam's on Dean's case for, you ruined Scooby-Doo, you know. But I think that could have been fun if they'd have just, you know, said, this is terrific. All right, let's get weapons.
Shaggy changes from pot to cocaine.
Something
So
like
I can see it. I like it.
okay.
He's always on now.
Back to you, Lynn.
I just wanted to see, I wanted them to go back to stay in the Scooby Natural world longer so I can see what happens with Sam and Velma after that kiss. I mean,
Jinkies, those
they
shoulders.
just, yeah, the jinkies, they just left us hanging there. So yeah, that's an obvious one. I think we could have all done with more of that. I'm going to go with one of the pet peeves I have about this season. Melissa, this is not one of my favorite seasons either. So I'm not going to be all, yay, this was so great about this season. No, I like to start out positive, but it may not stay that way.
You just look at things much deeper than I do. Like, I'm all about bringing this silliness, and you have these really thoughtful things. So I'm going to shut up now and listen to you.
I was really excited that they brought Missouri back, and then I was really disappointed that they brought her back just to almost immediately kill her off when we didn't even get to see very much of her character. That's one of my favorite characters in the show. I know that the actress was very busy and they couldn't, you know, there were practical reasons that they couldn't get her, but I was so excited for her to come back, and I feel like they could have done certainly more with her in that episode, but then maybe they could have kept her around longer. So, you know, what if Missouri didn't die precipitously right before she came back? Could she have maybe joined up with Donna and Jody to do the whole kind of wayward daughters thing the way it was originally going to be, where it was focused more on Jody and Donna, and with Missouri there, you know, the three of them together, the mature women, could have just been a force to be reckoned with. And I would have loved to have seen that. I would have loved to have seen Wayward Daughters in its original incarnation, focused more on Jody and Donna. And I think Missouri would have been a fabulous addition to that. I mean, they could have really, truly, you know, Sam and Dean, they would have given Sam and Dean a run for their money in how effective they could have been. So I would have liked to seen that
They
happen.
would have been incredible allies too. Just, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Elektra?
What if there really was a second catch and we ended up with two of them running around? Think of how they could get into twice the trouble.
Well, Mary
Even
would have been
better, what if there'd been, you know, we got two of them on this side because Alexander showed up, and then we go into AW, into Apocalypse World, and we find yet another catch. And now we've got three of them or four of them running around. Think how much trouble we could have. I mean, you know, and you know, what if one of the ones in, you know, in Apocalypse World was working for the angels and had turned, or was, you know, just think of the fun we could have. I mean, he is a really fun actor. I want to see him doing all the things. I want one of the catches to be gay. I want one of them to be a traitor. I want to see all the things.
I was going to say, think about all the fun Mary could have. But one of them would be gay, definitely, so someone else could get a shot. But at least with three, I mean, we'd never see her again. She'd just be like, bye.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, Mary could handle two of them.
She'd be smiling.
Yeah.
And,
She would be.
you know, maybe Mick never died and he went off with the other catch. So,
Oh, I like it.
I like that.
McCatch.
I like that. That's good. Yeah.
Kick.
Yeah.
What's their name? Kick.
Melissa?
Kick.
What are we talking about?
I wish you could see my notes because, yeah, they've all been stolen now. Thank you very much. So what if in that tunnel thing, Sam wasn't killed, but he was turned into a vampire. And then, Dean goes back to get him. Sam turns Dean. Now we get our vampires in Apocalypse World. Wouldn't that be interesting?
Well,
I
and
actually really
they'd-
loved Sam and Dean as vampires.
they would stay on mission and they would go after Michael.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but now
effectively.
but now they've got the vamp power, so that makes them, it just takes them as hunters to the next level. One of my favorite fanfic tropes is the guys either being turned to vamps or werewolves and continuing to hunt, because it takes their game to a different level. And it's interesting to see the struggles to keep their humanity, or at least to keep them from becoming actual monsters, is always a really interesting thing for me. I always really want to explore that, to see, like, how do they manage it? How do they leverage these new skills and still fight the battle to not become a monster? And then they have to, like, hide from the other hunters, because hunters don't understand that you could still be a monster but not be a monster. So that's my thing. That would have been a really interesting thing to see.
Well, and we got a glimpse of that with one of Chuck's alternative universes.
Mhm.
So, yeah. Lola?
Okay. The Bad Place, episode 9. This is where they have the Native American man who's an artist, and he thinks someone's coming over to look at his art. No, it's someone who just wants to use him. So often, I love this show, but so often they do tend to use people, especially vulnerable people who belong to marginalized communities. So I was thinking, what if they stopped exploiting vulnerable people? Could they still have a show? And I was looking in the Supernatural wiki, and they actually have a quote from the show that I don't remember hearing it, but it exemplifies exactly what I was talking about. Sam says, "So now what? We get Kaya to the wind caves, and then what? Force her to dreamwalk at gunpoint?" And Dean says, "We get mom back no matter what, remember?" It's like, wait, your mom is more important than this young woman's life? The F-U-C-K are you talking about? You two can't catch that because I spelled it out. But I'm like, what the heck? And it makes me feel gross and icky. I'm like, no, that's not the way it works. And even though we find out that Jack didn't kill the man, he certainly led the angels that did kill him to them. And they're using Kaya. It's just a lot of using, and just so that they can save their immediate family. I mean, I'm sorry, I don't have a whole lot of family left, but if it's a choice between, someone in my family and another human being, I'm not going to be just like, well, I got to save my family member. Screw that person. It's
And
kind of
Yeah.
say
Yeah,
that again.
I can't see them doing it for Mary. I could see if it was Sam or Dean who was
Yeah.
in Apocalypse World. I could see one of the brothers. Well, we know they would do anything
I
to.
know.
So, but for Mary, it doesn't lay well, both from just a characterization and also Lola's right. It's creepy.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
gross, and it makes me feel gross. And I mean, Mary's a strong woman. It's not like, she was dying. She's a strong woman. She can take care of herself, as we see. So it's not like it was really as life or death as they think. So it just kind of bugs me. And I would have liked to have seen episodes where they don't exploit vulnerable people. Just a thought crazy, I know.
Well, I'm going to go with Exodus because it never sat right with me that Cass stopped Dean from going down the tunnel after Sam when the vampires took him. And it never sat right with me that Dean didn't just decide to fight to the end.
Mm-hmm.
And Cass and Gabriel were in that tunnel. They might not have been at full strength, but come on, folks, they're angels. So I would have liked to have seen them send the civilians out, say, run, and Dean, Cass, and Gabriel just slash their way through the vamps to get to Sam.
Mm-hmm.
That makes so much more sense to me than Dean ever leaving alive. He wouldn't have. And
Wouldn't have.
that also goes on my list of things I haven't quite forgiven Castiel for, in turning him away from that. And then, Dean gets all the way to the camp. Okay, maybe he rationalizes saying, save the civilians and come back. And his line to Mary about, I'm going back to get his body. No, he wasn't. He was going back to die with Sam, because there was no getting his body. And so I would have preferred to have just seen a big Angels versus Vamps and a pissed off Winchester fight in that tunnel. I think that could have been amazing. So that would have been my change. Okay, round 2, back to Lynn.
I'm going to talk more about that episode because the tunnels episode that I can never remember the actual title of, but we're all talking about it. I was actually there. That was one of the times I was invited to be a guest on set. So I was there in the tunnels watching when they filmed that scene of Sam being killed by the vampires and Dean getting kind of dragged out of there. So I know that that was a tough script to follow, because Jensen and Jared also understand these characters really well. And at that point, there was no way to do something differently, but they struggled. Jensen especially struggled with that, because no, Dean wouldn't have left Sam. No, he wouldn't have. So I really got a bird's eye view of how hard it is sometimes to be an actor and to go along with what you need to go along with, but to struggle so much to have it kind of make sense in any way, shape, or form. And I was also sitting there being like, wait a minute, what now? Wait, what? Really? Is that what's happening?
But there is a reason. It's called because.
Well,
That's all.
that was the reason.
Because.
Well,
Because.
And there was no way, you couldn't change that on the fly. Like, there was no way to change that. That was pivotal to the way the rest of it was written at that point. So there was nothing to be done.
Yeah. Couldn't they have had both guys die and Lucifer then make the deal that the two of them are going to help ingratiate him into Jack? Like, it would have, because that was the point. They had to get Lucifer connected to Jack.
Yeah,
so
but
this
not,
was that
but not
way
on
in.
the spot. I mean, that's a huge rewrite. I mean, that would
Yeah.
take weeks to do a rewrite like that.
Couldn't they have had the vampires drag his body away for whatever reason?
Well, it's funny because the editing doesn't show everything that happened. That is what happened.
Okay.
And it was also shot. There were shots where Dean was really fighting to get away from Cass and to go, but the final edit doesn't really show that. It makes it look like he went along pretty easily, but I happen to know that that's not, there's other footage that would have, I think, if I was the editor, I would have been like, oh, this has got to be in there. We've got to see how much Dean fights to go, like that every particle of his being wants to go and see for himself. But, I'm not an editor, so when I saw the final one, I was like, oh, that's not the way I would have edited it. But I was thinking of a kind of a dark, I like angst. I'm a big fan of angst. So I was thinking that another twist, which they also couldn't have done, but I just think would have been really interesting, is if Dean did break away from Cass and go and find Sam's lifeless body, and he gets there and finds Sam dead, and then Lucifer gets there too. And it's Dean who pleads with Lucifer, can you bring him back? Can you bring him back? Which would be both a horrible betrayal of Sam, and a familiar one, like the Gadriel thing, but also, in my mind, totally understandable. And then Dean is, guilt stricken because he sees what it does to Sam to know that Lucifer is the one who brought him back, but Dean didn't feel like he had any choice, and Lucifer could hold that over both of them. And I just think that would be some delicious angst between the brothers.
That would have fit their characters better.
Yeah.
That would have fit what we've seen historically.
Yeah, I would have liked, if I was writing the script, that's what I would have put in there.
That's a great plot twist.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be nice if the writers were actually familiar with the characters or something? Oh,
Seen some of the episodes before they wrote one. Yeah. There were
Yeah.
definitely
13.
some that seemed to take pride in, I've never seen the show. It's like, yeah, we know. We know. We figured that out. Elektra?
Well, what if Wayward Sisters really had happened and for whatever reason, Donna had shifted over to hang with Jody or taken a job in one town over and they'd started, you know, hunting in earnest with the girls, with Alex playing, you know, backup as a nurse. And they'd really started doing something there with Patience and Claire.
Mm-hmm. Melissa?
Um,
I really wanted that. Sorry.
no,
I
it's
know, I
okay.
realize I am the only fan of Wayward Sisters, but had to put it in there.
No, I wanted
It's-
it in the original version, very
Mhm.
much so. I wanted
Yeah.
the Jody and Donna show, very much.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't have minded having the girls as ancillary characters. I'm not a huge fan of the younger, especially what's her face, Claire.
Claire.
I don't, and it's not the actress' fault. I don't like the way they wrote her. It's
Mhm.
not her fault. She did the best job she could do with the words on the page. I didn't like the words they put on the page for her.
No,
Um,
definitely the Donna and Jody show.
Yeah, I definitely would have loved that. I would have loved to have seen Missouri stay on because I think Missouri would have been instrumental in helping Jack build and control his powers, either because of through her own talent as a psychic, or I mean, she would have been plugged into the right people to help Jack figure out how to use these. But mine for this round is Tombstone. What if Sam became a Texas Ranger?
That would have been a premonition.
That's all I got.
Okay.
And you're going to be on a network called CW or WB. I see both of them. I'm not sure.
For the Winchester brothers or something Winchester. I mean, it's fated to be. Lola, what about you?
All right. So the episode Patience, which is the one, of course, where Missouri comes back and Wraith is going to get her granddaughter Patience. So we learned that her son James kind of had the same kind of upbringing as Sam as Dean. Missouri would be off hunting and he was terrified. Whereas, you know, Sam and Dean, they still loved their parents and they still wanted them to be in their lives. James totally cut Missouri out of his life and lied to Patience about who Missouri was. So I'm thinking, well, that was a dumb idea. And what if he hadn't? Because if he hadn't done that, Missouri would have been around and she could have helped develop Patience's talents earlier. And Patience might have foreseen the Wraith before he even started his path of destruction. And Patience may have been able to save Missouri. That would have been cool. But, you know, you got to have somebody who makes a dumb decision in order to have a story, I guess. I guess that's how it works.
I'm going to go with the thing. I mean, I loved the idea that there were other men of letters bunkers scattered around. Of course, there would have been. And I would have been on board for a road trip as Sam and Dean find a list of those bunkers and they go from bunker to bunker, liberating important manuscripts and spells and maybe even setting up a network of hunters to revive the bunkers and make these outposts. Yeah, I could have seen a whole season doing men of letters bunkers like that. But more importantly, I think also with that tentacle creature coming through from the other dimension, I foresee a conversation with Sam and Dean when we get back to the bunker, and Sam says, "Why is all your hentai in the trash, Dean?" You don't want to know. It was just Close Encounters of the Third.
Became too real.
Yeah. So Dean gets rid of his hentai collection after being a little up close and personal.
And then Jack fishes it out and like, what is this?
Sarah, I mean, Lynn?
I'm gonna go with some what if Rowena things. I love Rowena. Rowena is one of my favorite characters, and I do like that she's one of the high points of this season for me, that she got to be in a lot of episodes. And I love that she and Sam started to bond a little. They had that conversation in the car where they kind of bonded over their Lucifer trauma, and I think Sam really empathized with her and understood she was trying to steal the black grimoire, but not to do anything nefarious with it. She was trying to steal it so that she could protect herself from Lucifer. And I think Sam really understood that, to the extent that he actually tore a page out of it before he made her turn it back over to them so that she could have that piece to protect herself. So what if that had gone further and Sam and Rowena had continued to bond? And what if she had decided that he really was talented and could be a witch, and he became her apprentice, and the two of them together became powerful, and she really followed her redemption arc, and she sort of joined up with Sam and Dean, Sam being a more powerful witch now, so that that gave them a leg up with more things. I would have liked to seen that. I mean, I also like her staying kind of nuanced and not frenemy, not friend, not enemy, somewhere in between, going back and forth. But I at least would have loved Sam to apprentice himself with her for a while and get to be a little more of the Sam witch that was just kind of teased, but we never really got to see much of.
And as we have seen in fan fiction, I would have loved for it to have turned out that Dean was his familiar.
Of course.
Yes. Yes.
Because of course he is, whether he can turn into a cat or not.
Or dog.
Or dog or
Just
something.
saying.
He would be Sam's familiar, Sam's
Companion.
affection. Yeah.
So much possibility.
Oh yeah. Elektra?
Let the good times roll. What if Michael had actually kept his end of the bargain, and after Lucifer was dead, he'd said, okay, we did what we set out to do, and I'm going to go off and find another agreeable vessel, and I'm going to let you guys go on and lead your lives. Thanks for helping me take care of the problem. I realized that was, sort of not what angels appear to be like, but, maybe it could happen. It certainly would have required a major rewrite on the following season, but I'm good with that.
Okay. Melissa?
I'm still contemplating what Elektra said, because on one hand, because angels are a bag of dicks and Michael is like huge like that. But then we wouldn't get Jensen as Michael, and that's just a visual. That's just no. We need
Blinders wardrobe.
Yes, we need that in our lives. Thank you very much. And also, Jensen did such a great job in that as an actor, portraying that, portraying Michael. But but that's next season, so I'll hold on to that. So where was Crowley in this AU? Like, what if, because when season 12 ends, we don't actually see Crowley die, if I remember correctly, because I remember the first time that I watched it, I didn't really believe that Mark Sheppard had left the show, because we know that, nobody's ever really dead on Supernatural. I don't think we saw a body. Like, it was like, we all knew he was dead, but they left it was written to me to leave the door open. So what if, when they get to the AU world, there's Crowley? Like, I really missed Mark Sheppard, so I would have loved to have either had our original Crowley, or we got an AU Bobby, and we got an AU Charlie. Why couldn't we get an AU Crowley?
My understanding is he wanted to go. I saw him on Twitter, and he was like, "Nope, not coming back."
Oh, he's very vocal about what happened, but I'm just talking about from a storyline perspective.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I need more Crowley.
Yeah.
I know, Callie.
Well-
All right, so this is, I believe it's Beat the Devil, episode 21. Gabriel and Rowena have sex. We didn't get to see any of it. The fuck? Excuse me. So I was thinking, like, remember like 10 years ago when one of the first times we met Gabriel and he was in a porn and he had like the porn stash and he was coming in with like a flower in his mouth. And I'm like, why didn't we have that? Although it would have been different because it's Rowena. Rowena would be the star. She would be the one coming in with the flower in her mouth, romancing him. And he'd be like going down the bed like, oh, I can't take this. Take me, Rowena, take me. And it would have been so loved it. And I'm going to build it up in my head. And maybe one day I'll write it down and break the internet. I don't know.
Well, I'm going to say, what if
Mhm.
Wayward Sisters got together? They gelled, it got its spinoff. And the first thing they decided to do was head to Chicago to take out those werewolf families that were a crime syndicate. You know,
That would be awesome.
the other failed spinoff. Because Chicago is in the Midwest, it's a lot closer to Sioux Falls. You know, it could happen. They could be the first case is taking down the werewolf syndicate in Chicago. I think that could have been a lot of fun.
Well, and there's that young man who's a hunter running about, you know, maybe someone would take a liking to him.
Mm-hmm.
They could drag him back and it could be Wayward Sisters plus that young dude.
Yep. Lynn.
I could see Patience, for instance, dating him.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. That should be the title, Wayward Sisters and That One Dude.
Well, you know, what,
No,
don't
I
they
like
have,
it.
don't they have a sitcom called like, you know, Three Girls, a Guy in a Pizza Parlor or something?
Exactly. That's why I think that should be the title. I love it. What if the AU versions of Bobby and Charlie that we have in this season got magically transformed to be our world's version of Bobby and Charlie? That would make me so happy because I have such a beef with them killing Charlie and Bobby and then deciding, oh crap, maybe we shouldn't have killed these two characters. People are really missing them. I know. We'll bring them back as completely different characters because they're in another world. They'll look just the same, so we can bring the actors back, but they don't know Sam and Dean. They have no history with Sam and Dean. They're completely different people, but I'm sure the fans will just be ecstatic to have them back, even though they're completely different people without any relationship to
And
Sam
the
and Dean.
chemistry's gone. Yeah.
Nothing. That
Well,
was the
and it
worst
means that
idea.
it can be super weird with Bobby and Mary having a thing.
Super weird. Like the whole thing, in my opinion, the whole entire thing, it just, and every time they were on screen, I was just ranting about what a ridiculous idea that was. So I like my idea that just magically somehow, I don't care how, maybe Rowena does it, maybe Crowley comes back, maybe it just happens, but poof, they are suddenly
It's
our
supernatural.
original. It is.
Mhm.
So anything can happen. So they
Right.
turn
Well,
into
maybe
our
crossing the
originals.
barrier between the worlds
Maybe that did it.
turns them into our world's version. It doesn't work with Sam and Dean because there is no analog to them.
That's
Mhm.
right.
Right. They
But
don't
there,
have
but there
another
was an
version.
analog to both of them. So poof, as soon as they come out of the rift, they are the original characters who have all that connection.
Maybe Jack wants to bring them back from heaven, but like because of the opening in the rift, it kind of shoots down onto the other versions and puts the souls into the other versions.
That
I mean,
could
sorry,
perfectly
other version
work.
people. Yeah.
Yeah,
See, we
sorry.
fixed it. There,
Sorry,
we
not
fixed it.
sorry. Yeah.
Sorry, not sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Elektra?
That's just getting a little bit weird. I want to go back to the empty,
Mhm.
where, you know, Castiel wakes up and we discover that this is where all of the angels go, and he's pissing off the empty because he's so loud. What if, you know, there was a little bit more bargaining going on down in the empty? And Castiel, talked the empty into, maybe if I do X, Y, and Z now, he could be sent back and he didn't have to wait for, Jack to pray him out. Maybe he could just negotiate a little bit more about, well, maybe we could do this and maybe we could do that. And maybe you could come out with me and investigate. And maybe we could have gotten the power of the empty a lot earlier before it like went on a rampage through heaven. Because that was really unpleasant.
Yeah.
He could do what Lucifer did and sing songs until the empty gives up and throttles him and he's let out.
Well, Lucifer's just annoying in general.
And
Yeah.
see, he would make anyone give up because he's so annoying. It's like, whatever
know-
you want, just shut up.
He became such a caricature of himself in later seasons that, yeah, the only thing you could do with him is like toss him out of the car and tell him to walk home.
Yeah. Well, that's why Rowena ended up throttling him because he was kneeling her so much. It's like,
Melissa?
See, if we'd kept Rick Springfield as Lucifer, we wouldn't have had those problems. And they wrote him very
Yes.
differently.
Okay,
They wrote him
yeah.
very differently than they
2
wrote
points for Melissa.
Pellegrino.
yeah,
There's nothing wrong with Rick Springfield ever.
never, ever.
Never.
And we would
Um,
find out if he still had Jesse's girl, Is she a vampire now? What happened? I've been waiting for like 43 years. What happened? And what happened to Jesse? Is Jesse dead?
You could call 867-5309 and find out.
I saw that number on the bathroom wall when I was like in 5th grade. I remember that.
Okay. After that, I've forgotten who we left off with. I think it was Melissa.
What if the rift had stayed open long enough for them to drag Mary back? Right? Then we wouldn't have had to go through the whole drama of the apocalypse world and the fake Bobby and the fake Charlie and the just. Can you tell I don't really like Apocalypse World? They could have left Jack there.
Oh,
I mean,
boy.
that's fine.
Yeah, but
That would they could have mounted no. Let's just drag me. No, you know what? How about forget all of that? How about we leave Mary in Apocalypse World because we know how much I don't have my good sign. We know A+. We know how much I love Mary. So let's leave Mary in the Apocalypse World and
fine.
it's fine.
Yeah, keep Jack, leave Mary. I could go for that. Lola?
Oh, I ran out of mine. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go to the bad place. When I saw Sam and Dean standing in that footprint for some, not just dinosaur, but some Godzilla kind of dinosaur, I was like, oh, are they going to get stuck here for at least an episode? Do we get to see this? So what if Sam and Dean did get stuck in the bad place and it turned out to be some version of Land of the Lost? And so they start wiping out all the sleeve stacks. And
Stacks weren't all that bad. They were just stupid lizard monsters.
And they start leading these dinosaur hunts. I mean, Dean would be so into dinosaur hunts. And Sam would be kind of the wise man for the tribe, and he'd be the one there doing spells and smoke walking and doing all these things. And Dean would be out there with his whole necklace of dinosaur teeth. And, they might be pretty happy doing that. I think that could have worked.
I had
Simplicity.
that on my list too. I had that exact same thing. I want to see them chasing dinosaurs and eating lizards that taste like chicken, and that had a lot of possibility.
Learning to ride dinosaurs, and they call one of them Baby.
I'm back to Land of the Lost. I mean, really, if we can
I
cross
would
over
watch
with
that.
Scooby Natural, why can't we cross over with Land of the Lost? Well, folks, we have run through our time, but before we end, let's give everybody a chance to say where we can find you online. Lynn?
You can find me on all social media at FangasmSPN. You can find my books on Supernatural, including Family Don't End with Blood and There'll Be Peace When You Are Done, on my website at fangasmthebook.com, along with my new book on The Boys.
Very good. Elektra?
I'm Elektra Hammond. You can find me at untilmidnight.com, and you can find me out on Mastodon at electra@wandering.shop.
Very good. Melissa?
You can find me and Kitty, who's normally here with me, talking about Supernatural.
Okay. Lola?
You can find me, just Google me. I'm there somewhere. I don't remember what I'm on anymore because I like hate quit Twitter. And I never really got into Blue Sky, never tried Metatron or melatonin, whatever it's called. And I've just kind of given up on everything. But I am a writer, and I'm on the 4th draft of my 2nd novel because I just can't let it go.
Okay. And I'm pretty easy to find at gailcmartin.com, morganbryce.com. If you spell those right and look on the most of the main social media sites, you'll find me. I run the Supernatural GFWNC group here on Facebook. I'm a columnist for the Winchester Family Business blog, but most of the time you can find me here on Continual. So thank you all so much for a fantastic panel. Thanks to all of you for watching and listening. There will be more Supernatural coming up on Continual, so we'll see you online.